Hello, fellow Star Wars fans. My name is Starrapter. Welcome to the channel. Happy May the 4th and happy Free Comic Book Day. That's right. The stars have aligned. 2 massive days in nerd life has collided, and I have 2 Star Wars comics to talk about. I already did a comic book review earlier in the week with the usual comics on Wednesday. We had the Phantom Menace anniversary special issue, and now I'm talking about a comic from Dark Horse, a comic from Marvel, for Free Comic Book Day. So yeah, these were available at your free comic book shop. They will be available to get digitally as well. But before we get started, I have to have a little bit of a sip of some blue milk to celebrate Star Wars. So here's one for all the Star Wars fans. Happy May the 4th. Well, this is actually really good, by the way. I got this at Target, but yeah, it has that kind of milkshake kind of taste flavor, right? It's blue dye, but it's kind of almost like almond milk. It's really good. I got 2 half gallons of these in the fridge. So there you go. Also, fun little thing here. You know, it's Free Comic Book Day, but I did pick up something not comic book related at my local comic shop, which I go to in Lawrenceville, which is called Comic Relief. They now sell skateboards. They now sell skateboarding equipment, trucks, decks, bearings, all that. So if you are a skater in central New Jersey, go ahead and check out Comic Relief in Lawrenceville for all your skating needs. Now, getting back to the program, let's start off with some Dark Horse, shall we? We have the Young Jedi Adventures. Now, half of this is that. Half of this is the Plants vs. Zombies. So Young Jedi Adventures. This is Sky Parade Rescue. This is written by Daniel Hazalder with artwork by Andy Dugan. Yes, so this is the DJO that writes the High Republic Adventures. So this is the collision of 2 worlds, right? We have the Young Jedi Adventures animated series on Disney Junior, I think, and Disney Plus. Then we also have the High Republic Adventures characters. We have Farzala, we have Qort, we have Lula. And then for Young Jedi Adventures, we have Liss, Kai, and Nubs. So what happens is they go to this planet, Tanu. And mind you, this is taking place before the High Republic Adventures Volume 1. This is even before Yoda takes them on the Starrapter and travels around before they find Triment 4, which is where everything goes down with Zemerala and the Nile. This is like the prequel to the High Republic Adventures. So this thing is worth having just for that. This is really cool. But it's basically the story is the Padawans from the High Republic Adventures come down to Tanu, and they're showing these Jedi initiates, which is Nubs and Kai and all them, Liss, how to fly the Starrapter. They have the Innovator, which is a ship that was seen in the Rising Storm. That is there before its demise, obviously, in the future stories in the High Republic. And they are basically doing a parade in the sky for Tanu, right? So the idea is that Qort is going to go and help show Nubs how to fly the Starrapter or how to fly the vectors. And it's really neat because all of a sudden they are plunged into action when the Innovator is having engine trouble. So you have Nubs and you have Qort, who both speak completely different languages that not many people can understand, are having to learn how to communicate with gestures and with just common sense. And then they save the Innovator. And at the same time on the ground, you have Liss, you have Kai, who basically get separated in a crowd from Farzala and from Lula, and they are forced to calm the crowd down. So they believe in themselves, and there's a lot of great just messaging in this story. For the younglings, right? This is an all-ages book in Dark Horse Comics, but it was fun to see these worlds collide. I hope we have Nubs. I hope we have Liss and Kai eventually showing up in the High Republic Adventures. I feel like that's a good possibility, especially since DJO is the one that writes those books. So let's see them in the proper books themselves. But yeah, this was a fun one. I do like how they stuck with the design of the TV series Young Jedi Adventures in this one. Next one is from Marvel, and we also get 2 stories in this one. We get one from Star Wars Charles Soule, and we get one from Darth Vader. So here we go. This one is returned to Echo Base, And this one is from Charles Soule and Ibrahim Roberson. And this is basically right after the events. This is obviously in between Empire, Return of the Jedi. There is an event where Lando goes and destroys one of the statues on Coruscant there that belongs to the Emperor. And he's not so happy about that. But this is taking place, you know, before the events of the trial of Lando Calrissian and everything that went down with basically Mon Mothma being captured. So this is before those events of the current story in Star Wars, if that's where you want to know where this is. So basically, Leia receives a message, a distress message of survivors of the Battle of Hoth. So it's very risky. Lando is not really committed to going back to Hoth because he thinks it's a bad idea, especially just to rescue a couple guys. But we all know Leia, she is one to really try to unite everybody and rescue everybody she can. So her, Luke, Chewie, Lando, they all go down to Hoth. And there they find some snowtroopers, and it's interesting because there is backstory with these snowtroopers. Snowtroopers are commanded by a lieutenant who was the one that was basically the Empire's creating the scapegoat of, was why the rebel fleet came into Coruscant and destroyed that statue of the Emperor to kind of, you know, get the whole masses of people kind of rallying behind the Rebel Alliance. So the Emperor says, okay, you get the crappy job. You're going to get set down to Hoth where nothing's happening anymore. The rebels have left, and you're going to have to freeze your butts off on Hoth. So those guys are there, and then we basically have Luke, Han, Leia, and the whole crew busting in there, taking out these snowtroopers. They end up finding the survivors that they're there for. And then Luke says, oh, let's go take this transport. And they actually go on one of those transports that you see in Hoth, that you see going from ship to ship, the big rectangle white thing. So it's cool to see them, you know, get featured in Star Wars. They're flying out of there, hovering out of there rather. And the snowtroopers are on basically a troop carrier, and they're about to freeze. It's cold out there. Remember the air speeders, the snow speeders had trouble, so they're, you know, riding tauntauns around. So these machines are about to get busted, and Luke remembers to go in a Wampa cave. So we get a nice callback to the Wampa cave, and at one point, Chewie finds the Wampa's arm that Luke cut off like literally months ago, and he's like, "Oh, that should be good enough to eat." And that's where our Rebel story goes. There, they get out of there alive, and then they look and they see the Imperials that lost them in the snowstorm. And there are literally frozen icicles. It's pretty brutal. But yeah, we see what happens when you're left out there in the cold. And that's the end of that story. I did enjoy that when they're flying in on the Falcon to Hoth, you get to see the aftermath of the Battle of Hoth. You get to see AT-ATs. You get to see snow speeders and everything in between. It's really just kind of a cool reminder of, oh man, there's some crap that went down on this planet. It's quite interesting. The next one that really excited me is this Darth Vader story, and this is called The Curse. This is written by Greg Pak and Roman Rosanas. This one, guys, is absolutely vital. They even make editor's notes in here saying to read Vader issue number 45 first, because this picks up right after Vader 45 and going into Vader 46, which is also coming out this upcoming Wednesday. So definitely want to pick this issue up if you can, because there's some interstitial storytelling in here that is going to be the bridge between basically this arc, then the previous arc, and a new arc coming up. So they mentioned the Kyberite shuttle. There's these Imperial officers that are kind of gossiping, like, hey, I found out that, you know, Vader's doing this and all. And then Vader comes out of nowhere and he just starts offing these Imperials, right? Because Vader's on the opposing side. He's on the Schism Imperial, which is headed by a bunch of Imperials that are just disgusted with the Emperor, such as Sly Moore. Vader is part of that team. So Vader is going in and he's taking these guys out because he doesn't want this information to get widespread about what Vader's doing with this Kyberite and where the base is and all this sort of thing. And then next thing you know, Vader is getting like these hallucinations in his mind, which were part of the martyrdom or martyrium or whatever you pronounce it, the place they went last issue where they got the Kyberite. So that is starting to affect Vader's mind. He's having like these PTSD moments of like foreshadowing in his mind, visions of like the Emperor telling him fighting Luke and all this, and he's got to find Luke, but Luke shouldn't be contacted because he'll get scared by Vader. So that is where the rest of the story picks up. We have some crazy characters that we haven't seen, such as Warba, who was from the very original Star Wars 2015 run towards the end, and Vader issues, I think 68 through 75 as the editor notes say, or 69, something like that. So she was the one that fooled Luke Skywalker. Luke kind of made it seem like he had a crush on her and he broke her heart, I guess, and leaving her. So she's got a chip on her shoulder about Luke, but who she's approached by, who Warba is approached by in the first place, is none other than Sabe. Remember, we haven't seen Sabe in so many issues in this run, and it's amazing. That's one of the biggest parts of this issue, is dealing with Padme's handmaiden Sabe, the double, right? And we see in Phantom Menace, and she was working with Vader for a very long time as part of the Empire, and she kind of walked away from it all. But here we see her again looking for Luke. So this whole thing is, there's a trap, there's like a box that is needed by Warba, and Warba knows where Luke is. And Warba gives a mission to Sabe, say, go retrieve this box, and I'll tell you where Luke is. So Sabe goes to this cantina, finds the box. It's very easy to get. The guy the barman just basically gives it to her, but then she notices commotion of these jerks basically telling this guy that he owes them more time. I guess he's a slave, or he's indentured to these guys or something. And the guy said, no, 3 years is up. And the guy says, no, that doesn't count for interest. This guy's just being a jerk. He's just being an absolute jerk. Sabe feels like she has to intervene, and she does. And she kicks their butts. And she gets this guy, and she rescues this guy, and they get the heck out of there. But then she returns empty-handed to Warba, and Warba says basically you failed the test, and is talking to her about very interesting topics. Remember, Warba is somebody that was on Jeddah. She had dealt with the Guardians of the Will, so she knows a lot of the stuff like Cheerit and Base say, like I'm one with the Force is with me, all these different kind of mantras of the Force. So she appears to be very smart and very intelligent in ways of the Force, and she isn't really Force sensitive. She was trying to get Luke Skywalker's lightsaber in the first place all those years ago. So long story short, we basically get this resolution where you're going to have basically Sabe or Warba goes back to Vader, goes back to this cantina and finds Vader there, and he says that Sabe failed the test, but Warba has indeed passed the test. And she opens a box and finds like an Imperial insignia, and he basically says, you're one of the Imperial. So she's now going to be working for Vader, kneels and looks at this insignia. It is the Imperial cog. So it's interesting because I'm a little bit confused on the story somewhat, because it's like, okay, did Vader hire Sabe to find Luke because he doesn't want to approach Luke directly in order to get him on his side? But then why is she not following through on the mission with this thing and getting away? And then Warba obviously had contacted Vader, I guess, because she feels so wronged by Luke that she would go to Vader to get revenge on Luke. That's my eyes on this whole thing. But either way, I mean, this story was really surprising with how important it is. This is our bridge, again, from issue number 45 to issue number 46 of the current Darth Vader run. Yes, the Star Wars issue I could give or take. Like, that's a story that doesn't really, unless one of those three people that weren't even named is a huge deal. I don't know why Leia went there and did that. So that story is kind of just a one-off. But this Vader story, very cool. How Marvel, how Greg Pak and all them had the confidence to tell a story that maybe not everybody's going to read in between this and the next issue. So very curious just to see the reintroduction of Sabe, the reintroduction of Warba, a character from Volume 1 back in 2015. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening in Star Wars comics that happened today. I mean, look, you had Tales of the Empire. I'm going to finish filming this and then go watch more episodes of that. You got a new trailer for Acolyte. I'm going to be talking about all this stuff anyway on tomorrow's stream on Outer Rim Transmission. Me, Milton, and Ben are going to be talking and breaking down the week that was Star Wars, and that'll be around 7 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. That is tomorrow as this video goes out. But yes, once again, happy May the 4th. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Let me know in the comment section down below what kind of Star Wars things you did today. What did you do this week? Did you see Phantom Menace yet? Let's talk about it in the comment section below. But other than that, may the 4th be with you always. That is really so good.
Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also included 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.